Let me tell you something. We live in a world where too many people worship the mirror. They stand in front of it, admiring themselves, waiting for applause. But the mirror lies. The mirror doesn't show the damage they cause. It doesn't show the people they step on to get higher. It doesn't show the truth. Narcissism is not just arrogance. It is not just someone who loves themselves too much. That's the mistake people make. They think a narcissist is just a confident, charming person who believes in themselves. But real narcissism is deeper, darker, and far more destructive than that. It's not about self-love. It's about control. It's about manipulation. It's about the illusion of confidence hiding deep insecurity. A narcissist isn't someone who simply wants success or recognition. No, a narcissist is someone who feeds off others. Their power doesn't come from within. It comes from the attention, admiration, and suffering of those around them. They build nothing on their own. They only take, twist, and distort until the people closest to them are drained, confused, and questioning their own reality. You see, true confidence doesn't need validation. A strong person knows who they are, whether people cheer for them or not. But a narcissist, they need admiration, they need attention. They need to be seen as special because deep down, they are hollow. Deep down, they fear that if the world stops looking at them, stops praising them, stops giving them the spotlight, they will cease to exist. Think about it. Have you ever known someone who had to always be the smartest in the room? Someone who never admits when they are wrong? Someone who blames everyone else for their failures but takes credit for successes they didn't earn? That's narcissism at work. It's an obsession with power, with status, with being seen as untouchable. But here's what they don't want you to know. They are terrified. Terrified of being ordinary, terrified of being exposed, terrified that the mask they wear will slip and the world will see them for what they really are: fragile, insecure, and desperate. And here's the real danger. Narcissists are not just individuals. Narcissism infects entire cultures, institutions, and societies. Look at the media, look at social media, look at politics. We reward narcissistic behavior every day. We celebrate those who shout the loudest, who brag the most, who create drama and division just to keep the spotlight on themselves. We give them platforms, we give them power, and then we wonder why the world feels broken. Narcissism is a virus, and like any virus, it spreads through contact. A narcissistic parent raises a child who never feels good enough. A narcissistic boss creates a work environment where only those who play their twisted game succeed. A narcissistic leader can manipulate an entire nation, twisting truth until no one knows what's real anymore. But the worst part, many people don't even realize they've been infected. They grow up in toxic environments and think it's normal. They enter relationships with people who drain them emotionally and think that's just how love works. They work for bosses who abuse their power and assume that's just how success is built. They don't see the narcissistic cycle for what it is, a system designed to keep them trapped. That's why awareness is the first step to breaking free. You have to see the narcissist for who they are. You have to understand their patterns. You have to recognize the red flags before you get caught in their web. Because once you understand the game, you stop playing. And when you stop playing, they lose. A narcissist's worst nightmare is a person who no longer reacts to them, a person who doesn't fall for their manipulation, a person who doesn't seek their approval. The moment you stop feeding their ego, they weaken, they lash out, they panic, because without someone to control, without someone to manipulate, they are nothing. So the question is, are you feeding the narcissists in your life? Are you allowing them to dictate your worth? Are you giving them the attention they crave, the control they demand? Or are you ready to step out of their shadow and reclaim your power? You cannot change a narcissist. You cannot fix them. You cannot reason with them, but you can remove yourself from their game. You can set boundaries. You can choose to build relationships, careers, and communities that are based on real strength that doesn't require deception, that doesn't need to tear others down just to feel important. Imagine a world where narcissism no longer thrives. A world where success is built on integrity, not manipulation. A world where people rise together instead of fighting for dominance. That world begins with you. It begins with understanding what narcissism truly is and refusing to let it control you any longer. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you break free, you'll wonder why you ever let them hold power over you in the first place. The narcissists of the world are only as powerful as we allow them to be. And when we stop feeding them, their extinction is inevitable. Narcissists don't just walk into people's lives and exist harmlessly. They leave a mark, a scar, a wound that sometimes takes years, maybe even a lifetime to heal. They don't build, they destroy. They don't nurture, they drain. And the worst part? Many people don't even realize they've been caught in the storm until it's too late. The cost of narcissism is not small. It is not something that can be shrugged off or ignored. It is the quiet suffering of a child growing up in a home where love is conditional, where affection is given only when it benefits the parent, where their achievements are used as trophies for someone else's ego. That child learns early that their worth is tied to how well they serve another person's image. They grow up questioning themselves, struggling to find their own voice because every time they tried, they were told they were wrong, selfish, or ungrateful. That child becomes an adult who either repeats the cycle or spends years undoing the damage. It is the devastation of a relationship where one person gives everything while the other takes without end. Narcissists don't love in the way most people understand love. They love in a way that benefits them. They love as long as there is control, admiration, and a steady supply of validation. But the moment their partner stops feeding their ego, stops bending to their demands, stops playing by their rules, everything changes. Suddenly the love turns cold, the affection disappears. The kindness was never real. It was a tool, a strategy, a means to an end. And when they leave behind a person who questions their worth, who wonders if they were ever truly loved at all. It is the toxicity of a workplace poisoned by a narcissistic leader. The kind of leader who takes credit for work they didn't do, who blames others for their own mistakes, who builds an empire of fear and intimidation instead of respect and collaboration. Employees in these environments don't just lose motivation, they lose confidence, creativity, and passion. They become afraid to take risks, afraid to speak up, afraid to be anything other than what their narcissistic boss demands. And when that boss finally moves on, they leave behind a broken team, a crumbling system, a workplace that takes years to recover. It is the downfall of a society that rewards selfishness over service. We live in a world where narcissism is not only accepted but encouraged, where social media glorifies those who seek attention at any cost, where fame, wealth, and power are often granted to those who know how to manipulate, not those who know how to lead. We celebrate the loudest voices, not the wisest ones. We follow those who entertain even if they deceive. And in doing so, we give narcissists exactly what they need: an audience, a platform, a place to thrive. The cost of narcissism is not just individual, it is collective. It is the slow erosion of trust between people. It is the rise of a culture that values image over integrity, status over selflessness. It is the reason families fall apart, businesses collapse, communities divide, and nations break. Because when narcissism is allowed to rule, the foundation of everything that holds us together begins to crack. But here's the truth most people don't want to face. Narcissists don't hold all the power. They only have as much power as we allow them to have. The reason they get away with their behavior is that too many people enable them. Too many people excuse them, defend them, justify their actions, or worse, ignore them completely. That's just how they are, people say. They didn't mean it. They'll change. Maybe I'm the problem. No, enough of that. The cost of narcissism is far too high for us to keep pretending it isn't a problem. It is not harmless. It is not just an annoying personality trait. It is a destructive force that tears through lives, leaving behind broken people, broken systems, and broken hearts. And the only way to stop paying that cost is to stop accepting it. This means setting boundaries and refusing to tolerate manipulation. It means holding narcissists accountable for their actions instead of giving them free passes because they're charming or successful. It means creating a culture that values empathy, humility, and authenticity over vanity, greed, and deception. It means recognizing that real leadership is about service, not dominance. That real success is about contribution, not attention. That real love is about giving, not controlling. Imagine a world where narcissism no longer dictates the rules. A world where relationships are built on mutual respect, workplaces are led by integrity, and success is measured not by how much one takes, but by how much one gives. That world is possible, but it will not come easily. It will take awareness, courage, and an unwavering commitment to stop feeding the very thing that has cost us so much. Narcissism has taken enough from us. It's time to take our power back. Narcissists do not rise to power by accident. They do not dominate relationships, workplaces, or society through sheer force alone. They thrive because we, as a culture, allow them to. The world doesn't just tolerate narcissists. It enables them, rewards them, even idle. They are given positions of power not because they are the best leaders, but because they are the loudest voices in the room. They are elevated not because they are the most deserving, but because they know how to manipulate, how to charm, how to play the game. Think about how our society is structured. structured. Look at the entertainment industry, where the most self-obsessed individuals are given the most attention. Look at social media, where validation is measured in likes, followers, and shares, where people are encouraged to present a carefully curated image rather than their authentic selves. Look at business and politics, where those who are willing to step on others, twist the truth, and push themselves forward at any cost are often the ones who succeed. The world doesn't just make room for narcissists, it rolls out the red carpet for them. The reason narcissists thrive is because they understand something that many good-hearted people do not. Perception is often more powerful than reality. They do not need to be competent, kind, or honest. They just need to convince enough people that they are. They create an illusion of greatness, of intelligence, of importance, and they do it so well that people believe it. They manipulate emotions, twist facts, rewrite history, and gaslight anyone who dares to challenge them. And because they are relentless, because they will fight tooth and nail to protect their image, many people simply give up and go along with it. At work, the narcissistic boss gets away with mistreating employees because people fear losing their jobs. In relationships, the narcissistic partner continues their emotional games because their victim has been conditioned to believe that this is love. In families, the narcissistic parent maintains control because they have built a system where questioning them is seen as betrayal. In politics, narcissistic leaders manipulate the masses because people are desperate for someone who speaks with confidence, even if that confidence is built on lies. And then when things fall apart, when the damage is finally undeniable, people act surprised. They wonder how someone so obviously toxic, so obviously self-serving, was allowed to have so much power for so long. But the answer is clear. Narcissists do not take power by force. They take it because people give it to them. Why? Because confronting narcissism is uncomfortable. Because calling out manipulation takes effort. Because people would rather avoid conflict than deal with the storm that comes when a narcissist is challenged. And narcissists know this. They count on it. They know that most people would rather keep the peace, even if it means tolerating their abuse, their lies, their destructive behavior. This is how they survive. This is how they win. And until society stops rewarding them, they will continue to rise. The solution is not easy, but it is simple. Stop feeding them. Stop excusing them. Stop mistaking arrogance for confidence. Stop confusing manipulation for leadership. Stop equating charm with character. Start paying attention to actions, not just words. Start valuing humility over vanity, integrity over image, substance over spectacle. The reason narcissists exist in such large numbers is because we have created an environment where they can thrive. But environments can change. Cultures can change, people can wake up, and when they do, when they start recognizing the patterns, when they start calling out the behavior, when they stop rewarding toxicity with attention and power, narcissists lose their grip. A world that no longer enables narcissists is a world where relationships are healthier, workplaces are more ethical, and leadership is truly about service rather than self-interest. It is a world where people are valued for their character, not just their charisma. A world where truth matters more than perception. A world where manipulation is exposed and confronted rather than ignored and tolerated. That world is possible. But only if people are willing to stop looking the other way. Only if people are willing to stop making excuses. Only if people are willing to stop choosing comfort over truth. Because the moment narcissists can no longer manipulate, no longer deceive, no longer control, they lose. And when they lose, everyone else finally wins. Narcissists have survived for so long because the world has unknowingly created the perfect environment for them. They have adapted to society's weaknesses, exploiting its systems, manipulating its people, and bending its rules to serve their own interests. But what happens when that environment changes? What happens when society no longer provides them with the admiration, control, and validation they so desperately crave? What happens when the world stops rewarding narcissists? That is the essence of the narcissist extinction theory, an understanding that these individuals can only survive as long as we allow them to. A narcissist's power does not come from within, it comes from the people they manipulate. They do not create, they consume. They do not inspire, they demand. They do not love, they control. They live through the energy of others, feeding off their emotions, their admiration, and even their suffering. They need to be seen, to be validated, to be feared. Without that, they wither. The extinction of narcissism begins when people refuse to give them what they need. It starts when individuals recognize the toxic patterns and refuse to engage in the game. When people stop rewarding arrogance with attention. When businesses stop hiring leaders who prioritize power over ethics, when relationships are built on mutual respect rather than manipulation, when society stops glorifying self-obsession and starts valuing humility, service, and integrity, Imagine a world where narcissists can no longer climb the ranks of leadership because their deception is recognized before they can do harm. A world where people are taught from an early age how to identify manipulative behavior, how to set boundaries, and how to prioritize emotional intelligence over empty charisma. A world where success is measured not by who can demand the most attention, but by who can contribute the most value. This change will not come easily. Narcissists will not go down without a fight. They will resist, manipulate, and use every tool at their disposal to maintain their position. They will play the victim, turn people against each other, and attempt to gaslight society into believing that they are essential. But they are not. And the moment the world sees through the illusion, their downfall begins. The extinction of narcissism is not about eliminating people. It is about eliminating the power that narcissistic behavior holds. It is about changing the systems that allow them to thrive. It is about shifting the values that society upholds, replacing superficial admiration with deep respect for character, honesty, and selflessness. It is about creating an environment where deception and manipulation have no place, where integrity is the foundation of leadership, and where empathy is the currency of influence. It will take time, but the signs of this shift are already beginning. More people are waking up to the reality of narcissism, recognizing it in relationships, workplaces, and leadership. More voices are speaking out, refusing to be silenced by fear or intimidation. More individuals are choosing to break free from toxic cycles, prioritizing their own mental and emotional well-being over the approval of those who never truly cared for them. This is how extinction happens, not in a single moment, but through a gradual but unstoppable transformation, a change in awareness, a shift in power, a redefinition of what truly matters. And when that shift reaches its tipping point, narcissists will find themselves in a world that no longer supports them, no longer fears them, no longer bends to their will. And in that world, for the first time, the people they once controlled will finally be free. A world without narcissists is not just a fantasy, it is a possibility shaped by the choices we make, the awareness we spread, and the values we choose to uphold. Narcissists thrive because they manipulate the systems around them, bending people to their will through charm, deception, and fear. They create illusions of power, illusions of importance, illusions of love. But when those illusions are shattered, when people no longer fall for their tricks, their power fades. They cannot survive in a world that no longer tolerates them. That world begins with education. Awareness is the first and most crucial step. People need to understand what narcissism truly is, not just the surface level traits, but the deep-rooted patterns of manipulation and control. Society must teach the difference between healthy confidence and destructive arrogance. It must equip individuals with the ability to recognize gaslighting, emotional abuse, and toxic behaviors before they become entangled in them. When people are armed with knowledge, they become immune to the narcissist's tactics. They no longer fall for false promises, no longer mistake control for love, no longer allow their emotions to be weaponized against them. It begins in childhood in the way we raise our sons and daughters. Parents must teach their children that love is not conditional, that their worth is not based on how much they please others. They must model respect, empathy, and self-awareness so that the next generation does not grow up seeking validation from the wrong people. Schools must incorporate emotional intelligence into their education, teaching children not just math and science, but how to recognize manipulation, how to set boundaries, how to trust their instincts. If narcissists are not given easy victims to prey on, their influence shrinks. It continues in relationships. People must learn to choose partners who respect them rather than control them. They must break the cycle of toxic love, recognizing that true connection is built on mutual support rather than power struggles. They must refuse to tolerate emotional abuse disguised as passion, grand gestures masking deep selfishness, or apologies that come without real change. When people demand authenticity in their relationships, narcissists find themselves without willing participants in their game. It extends into workplaces where leadership must be redefined. Too often, narcissists climb the corporate ladder because they know how to take credit for others' work, how to manipulate people into submission, how to appear confident even when they are incompetent. Companies must shift their focus from rewarding self-promotion to recognizing true leadership, the kind built on collaboration, humility, and integrity. Work environments must become places where toxicity cannot thrive, where employees feel valued rather than used, where success is measured by impact rather than ego. It transforms politics and society at large. The world has too often mistaken dominance for strength, mistaking the loudest voices places for the most capable leaders. But real leadership is not about power, it is about service. The future belongs to those who uplift others, not those who exploit them. Society must stop glorifying those who seek fame for its own sake and instead celebrate those who contribute, who create, who lead with wisdom and compassion. The moment narcissists are no longer given platforms, no longer handed the spotlight simply because they demand it, their influence crumbles. This change is not easy. It requires a shift in mindset, in culture, in expectations. It requires people to hold themselves accountable, to stop excusing toxic behavior, to stop enabling those who seek to manipulate and control. It requires courage to walk away from unhealthy relationships, to call out abuse even when it's uncomfortable, to build a life where narcissists hold no power. But imagine the result. A world where relationships are built on trust rather than fear, where workplaces are places of true collaboration rather than competition for power, where leaders rise because of their wisdom, not their ability to manipulate, where children grow up knowing their worth, unshaken by the need for external validation, where kindness is not seen as weakness but as the ultimate strength. This is not a world without confidence, without ambition, without success. It is a world where those qualities are no longer fueled by selfishness and deception. It is a world where strength is real, not performed, where power is earned, not stolen, where influence comes from inspiration, not intimidation. The extinction of narcissists is not about erasing people. It is about erasing the conditions that allow them to thrive. And when that happens, when the game they play no longer works, they will fade into irrelevance, and the world will finally be free to grow into something better. The extinction of narcissism is not about eliminating people. It is about eliminating the influence and control that narcissistic behavior has over our lives, our relationships, our workplaces, and our society. For too long, narcissists have thrived because we have allowed them to, because we have rewarded manipulation, mistaken arrogance for confidence, and ignored the warning signs of their destructive nature. But awareness is rising. The world is beginning to see through the illusions. People are waking up, setting boundaries, refusing to be controlled. This transformation will not be easy. Narcissists will resist, fight, and attempt to reclaim the power they have long held, but they cannot survive in an environment that no longer feeds them. A world that values authenticity over deception, integrity over vanity, humility over grandiosity is a world where narcissists lose their grip. It is a world where relationships are built on respect, where leadership is rooted in service, where success is defined by contribution rather than control. The end of narcissism's reign begins with us, our choices, our awareness, our refusal to tolerate toxic behavior. When we stop engaging in their games, when we no longer react to their manipulation, when we choose truth over illusion, they lose power. And when they lose power, we gain something far greater: freedom. The freedom to live without fear, to love without control, to work without exploitation, to build a society where character, not charisma, defines true greatness. The time has come to break the cycle. The time has come to reclaim our world from those who have taken so much without giving anything in return. The extinction of narcissism is not just possible, it is necessary. And when it happens, the world will not only survive without them, it will finally begin to thrive.